Well, hello there. I am Kimberly Hayes de Muda,
And I'm Amanda Day,
and you're listening to Fundraising Heyday
where we cover the how-tos of grants and fundraising.
and how we can all do a better job of changing the world through philanthropy.
Yep. If you really like the way that Kimberly and I tee up how-tos and discuss trends in philanthropy, including grant writing and fundraising on this podcast, um, then we're probably the right trainers and coaches for you. So we're booking training, coaching, and keynotes for the
Yep.
second half of 2024 and on into 2025 and even beyond that, if that's what your need is. So if you are at all interested in talking to us about that, we would love to talk to you. The easiest way to reach us is to drop us an email at hello@haydayservices.com. That's HAYDAY services.com. And let's just jump on a quick call and see how we can work together.
Yeah, what you hear is what you'll get. So there you go. Hey there. We are thrilled at the Fundraising Heyday podcast to bring in Kim Joyce and Associates as a sponsor. This incredible grant consulting firm based in Arizona has worked with nonprofits, for-profits, agencies of all sizes, from tribal governments to hospitals, universities, and everything in between. CEO Kim Joyce is here to share some really interesting tips and tricks that she's learned in her lived experience in this incredibly successful firm. We're so glad you could join us.
Kim, one client testimonial credits your team with growing their grant portfolio from $100,000 to $1 million over the course of 7 years. How do you educate clients about the slow and steady race that can be fundraising through grants?
We tell our clients that building a grant strategy takes time and is a big investment of time and resources for all parties involved. Our teams consistently communicate with our clients that we are here for them for the long term. And grants are not a short-term solution. They're really the long game. We also provide examples of organizations that we've worked with over the years that have significantly grown their grants program, because that's one of the things we do best is grow a grants program. We also educate clients that sometimes the first grant doesn't get funded. Sometimes they have to submit it a couple of years in a row before it is going to get funded. However, we tell them no proposal is ever written in vain. So each proposal helps us build content and a deeper knowledge of the organizations we work with. And each proposal builds upon the previous one. So if something doesn't get funded, we can maybe revise, edit, rework a proposal to hopefully submit it to another funder who is interested in that specific program or project. But grants take time.
Great point. Yep. To find out more about the incredible team at Kim Joyce and Associates, visit kimjoyceandassociates.com. If you want to join a consulting firm who places value on integrity, excellence, and community, check out the career opportunities page. Kim is always on the lookout for her next great hire, as well as her next great client.
So for years, Amanda and I have been preaching, and I feel like it is, you could probably call it that grant consulting or building a consulting business or just building a business, it's not a one size fits all, right? I thought that for years. It took me 6 years to start my business because I was too busy thinking about things that in the end were not important and didn't matter and weren't even true. Obviously, you want to build a business that is structured according to the laws and the policies and the financial regulations in your area, in your region, in your municipality, in your state, in your country, sure. But whether or not you want to be a solo practitioner working out of a corner of your dining room, or whether your dream is to build a big consulting firm with a national presence and dozens of employees, it's really up to you and what works best for you, right, Amanda?
Yeah, absolutely. You get to decide how you build your business, how you grow it, whether you grow it, all of those things. It's up to you. And that's why we like to talk to a wide array of consultants on this podcast to give you different ideas. Today, we're speaking with someone who has grown her firm of one to now having more than 30 employees. So we're talking to someone who's built that big national presence, that's for sure.
Share her experiences. And so we can all just learn and hang out together. So we're talking with Kim Joyce. So she's going to go by Kim, and I'm Kimberly, and that's where we are. If you're listening, it's going to be okay. It'll be all right. You'll figure it out. So we're talking to Kim Joyce. She founded Kim Joyce and Associates in 2010, which surprised me because I thought it would have been like in the early aughts, but no. So she's come an incredible way. She has over 20 years of experience all across the nonprofit sector as a grant professional, fundraising, and volunteering. She has her GPC and she is a GPA approved trainer, and that's Grant Professionals Association. And in her spare time, which I can't imagine she has a lot of, she is also a board member of the Grant Professional Certification Institute. And that's the institute that created the Grant Professional Certified, which is what she has and what Amanda and I have. So over the past decade and a half or so, she's worked at Kim Joyce and Associates to build a client base that has received grant awards totaling more than 404 million. And I bet it's even much higher than that by now. And it includes, she does everything. She and her team do sort of everything in the entire grant cycle, from prospect research to pre-award grant writing, post-award grant management, um, helping clients build relationships with funders. She's sort of done it all, and we're just so excited. We're excited for her partnership this year, but we're also super excited to welcome you to the show, Kim. Hey, hello.
Hey, it's so great to be here. I'm just really excited to talk with you guys and share a little bit about my company.
Well, there's so much we want to ask. We're
Yes.
trying to just like not jump. Well, we're just going to jump into it because there's so much I want to know. I'd love to start off and by asking you something we ask all of our guests at some point in an interview situation is we always want to hear your origin story. How did you write grants? Amanda, have we talked to maybe one person who like knew they wanted to do that in college?
Yeah, like they were
Was
like,
it Allison? Yeah, yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah. So Kim, how did you were you born knowing you wanted to write grants? Maybe not. Let us know.
No, I had no idea, which I think is a lot of
Yeah.
times how we fall into these jobs. I started out as an English major. I didn't know what I wanted to do in college, so I thought, oh, why not be an English major? And became a high school English teacher and librarian. So did that for about 7 years. And then I worked in school administration. I was a school business manager. So I kind of learned that side of everything, school budgeting and maintenance and tuition collection and all of those types of things. And then I was at a family party, and someone came up to me and they said, "You are an English teacher. I need a grant writer. Why don't you come and work for me?"
Wow.
Wow. I think this is
Cool.
the most instantaneous origin story that
Yes.
we've ever heard.
And I'm assuming you said
Okay.
yes to this come work for me question.
So I thought about it. I interviewed.
Okay.
It was at an organization which I was very passionate about, one that my sister's son was served through. And so I took the leap and took the job.
Wow.
And they had been around for about 60 years. So I just dove in. I learned everything I could. I read every grant proposal I could. I read every book I could. And I started to go to grant writing trainings. And back then they were in person. So I
Mhm.
met people and I would learn. And then I just started writing grants. And Stayed there for a few years and then went to another nonprofit after that. And then I was at a grant orientation meeting at a city here. Their CDBG grant process was coming out, and I turned around to say hello to the people behind me, and I met a consultant. And we started talking, and she said, "You've done work for a lot of larger agencies. Why don't you do this on your own?" And I said, "I don't know how to do that. What would I do?" And so she said, "I have a couple clients. I can't take them on. Why don't you meet with them?"
Yeah.
And so I met with those two clients, and they both wanted a contract. So I called my friend, now mentor, colleague back, and I said, "I don't know what to do. Can you help me?" And she said, "Yes." And so I signed two contracts, put in my 2 weeks notice. I left my job. That was in 2010, and I never looked back.
Wow.
Wow.
It's like you had a fairy grandmother, you know, it's
I did. And
that's
I
so
think that was the start of me really realizing how much we need to be there for each other. I mean, I've called her probably almost every day for the last 14 years, just someone to lean on and help me and learn the ropes. And so that was the turning point at that city pre-orientation meeting.
wow.
Man, I think I know a lot of grant consultants, but I don't think anybody's stories was someone told them like, "Hey, you should do this," and here's two clients, go. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
yeah. Well, I'm curious how much, since you were like, this is how it happened, how much planning, was your consulting firm originally named Kim Joyce and Associates? And did you do that on purpose because you kind of knew you wanted to make it bigger, or was that just like, oh, that sounds good?
So I'm not a risk taker at all. And I didn't know what to call my business, and I needed to start an LLC. And my colleague, her consulting business was her name and associates. And I thought, oh, well, if I ever have another person working here, that would be fine. And so my husband said, "Kim, people know your name and they know you. And so why don't you use your name?" So that's what I did.
Nice.
I
Good.
took the same approach when I started my solo practice. I was like, oh, there's this, there's that. I'm like, or there's just Heyday Muga Consulting. Have a nice day. It's like, and then now we have Heyday Services. It's like, yep.
There it
I
sometimes
is.
love it.
Yeah.
sometimes simple is works.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of building on that, talking about being simple and how to know when things are too much. For a lot of people starting out, particularly if they're starting out solo and they're trying to figure out workload and life balance, there's always that question about how much work is too much and when is the right time to take on more clients and work with some contractors. Was there any, or is there any wisdom you could share with these 14 years of growing fast to maybe help people who are just getting started or really thinking about expanding? When is the right time to maybe grow? How did you go about doing that? And would you recommend what you did to other people?
I would, and just going back to that, not really taking risks. I was very conservative in the beginning. I didn't have an office. I started in my living room in the corner with a really old, gross desk and one computer, and worked out of my house for 6 years. And I kind of got acclimated to those first two clients for a while, and I had three small children at home, and so it was a juggle and a struggle,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of felt that out for a while. And then after I was settled, probably 6 months in, I was like, oh, okay, I think I can take on another client. And then took on another one. And then I was always a little concerned, like, what if I had to let a client go, or what if one let me go? Maybe I should take another one on just to be safe. And so I think I've always kind of had that mindset, like kind of just, watching the risk a little bit, not spending a ton of money to begin with, just, doing everything I could to really maximize what I was learning and my growth, my personal and business growth first. And then I brought on subcontractors several years after that when I just couldn't manage the work anymore by myself, which was really, really hard. But I've always kind of looked at bringing on more business. Like I want to provide the best service that I can always. And, we say here we want to provide world-class customer service and really amazing grant proposals that get funded. So there is kind of that line and, how much is too much. But I think for me, I would look to take on another client when I could, because I always wanted to make sure I had enough.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
And I'm gonna, because since talking about you start off with two and then adding a third one, I'm guessing most of those clients then were probably the type of clients where like you've got a year contract, you've got probably a retainer, so you've got a set amount of income coming in every month. Because that is very different having four clients like that versus having clients that just show up and are like, I just want you to write this one grant. And then they may show up in 3 months to ask for another one, or you may never hear from them again. Because I had a lot of clients like that. It was like I never knew from month to month if I was going to have 12 projects or two, because it was a lot of one-offs when I first got started. And mostly because I
Yeah.
didn't know any better to think about, hey, let's do retainer and let's have some consistency here.
Yeah, I mean, when I left my day job, I really had to make sure that I had enough. I was not going to leave my job unless I had what I needed to cover my salary, what I was making. And then it kind of went from there because every client's a little bit different, but having the long-term contracts definitely helps so that we can plan. It also helps for the organization to plan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and consulting is definitely not one size fits all. We all do something different. And in the beginning, I felt nervous and anxious. And should I be doing what this person's doing? Should I be doing what that person's doing? And what I've realized is I really need to do what I want to do and what I need to do. And every consultant can be free to do the same. So I did feel pressure in the beginning to try to live up to what I thought was a standard of what someone else was doing. And then I thought, you know what, that doesn't work for me. This works for me. And then just kind of organically shift when I need to and just let the wind pull me.
Yeah. Well, and I love that because too often, whether you're just talking to somebody or I'm going to a training and they're like setting like, you've got to do it X, Y, and Z. And kind of like Kimberly said at the beginning, obviously there's certain, when you have a business, there's certain rules and regulations and ethics and things you need to follow. But that aside, no one else can dictate how many clients I take or don't take or how I charge or I mean, it's good to talk to other people and get ideas and make sure that you're not undervaluing yourself and things like that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, if, you know, okay, I don't have a website. So, but if I have enough clients, I don't have to have a website just because everybody else has one. Right.
Right?
And
You can
things
do
like that.
whatever you need to do, whatever you want to do. And I think that's when I see things really grow and you just get into that groove and focus on what I'm doing. And then, I can figure it out from there.
Yeah.
But it's great to have everybody else talking and,
Mhm.
saying what you do and how you do it and sharing with each other because
Mm-hmm.
that helps too.
I
Yeah.
am all for sharing. I'm just not a big fan of dictating, like like Amanda said, like you must have this and you must do that, and it's like, or you are going to work, 80 hours a week, and for 10 years, and I'm like, no, no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Thank
Nope,
you. No.
nope.
And I think for me, like I've always been a worker. Like I realized that about myself. I started doing catering, babysitting jobs, and from day one, I worked two jobs in college, and so it's kind of just a part of who I am. So and certain consultants may only be able to handle one client. I like to multitask and have a lot to do, and so again, we're all different, and that's okay. I'm realizing
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to do whatever we need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm,
I
true.
think I've talked about this before, on maybe another episode of this podcast, but we were Amanda and I, and maybe Allison, we were team teaching about. It was a presentation at the Grant Summit for the Grant Professional Association. We were talking about is there's not one size fits all. Look at us. We're three different consultants with three different business models doing, coming together, but also realizing we have our strengths and weaknesses and needs. And one woman who was there, I think maybe she came up to me afterwards and she was like, I I don't want to grow my business. I'm happy. Or I mean, she was just all tremulous, like I like a little Disney character with the big eyes. And she was like, I just want to, I like where I am. I'm like, and that's wonderful. Nobody's. She's like, but I feel like I'm supposed to want to get bigger and hire people, and I don't want to. And I'm like, and there you go. But it was like she's a grown woman. We're all grown adults here, but that sort of you have to do it a certain way was so ingrained. So it's not just us. And if you're listening, it's not just you. A lot of people think that. And I think Kim Joyce is one example of you don't have to do things that way. You can do them the way that works for you.
Yeah, and I think two things that I've learned is that a lot of times we have guilt about certain things,
Yeah.
whether, or, um, am I doing this right? Am I doing it wrong? I just encourage people, like, don't let someone else make you feel bad or you're doing something the wrong way. You can take all the advice you want and then you do with it what you want to do with it. But, it's okay too if you have a business model and then that changes over time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Beginning, I thought it was just going to be me and I'm going to write these grants and it's going to be great. And I love it. I love grant writing. I mean, it's part of who I am. I know that sounds crazy for some people, but, and then I brought on subcontractors and I never thought I would hire employees. But I got to the place where I needed that full-time fixed capacity. So what I didn't think I would ever do, then I ended up doing because I needed to do it. So it's okay to change and switch things up and do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Through that.
Well, that's a great segue to my next question because I know you love the grant writing and I know you love your clients, you love being involved with them. And so I know you've kind of had to take a step back though, because you can't, as big as your firm is, you can't be involved as in depth, right, with every single client. So how did you go from being a very hands-on consultant to hiring staff who is now being very hands-on? Like, how was that transition? Was it hard and how did you do it?
It was really, really, really hard. I'm not that grant writers are control freaks, but we have to have some kind of control over our process to make sure that things are turned in on time and things like that. So,
Hey,
but I
person,
had these,
right here.
I had these really great relationships with my clients, and over the years, we become very close. We are really good at growing a grants program.
Mhm.
And as such, we find ourselves with our clients for a long time. So I wanted the relationship to remain intact. And I was a little bit afraid, is someone else going to do it the way I do it? Are they going to get everything done? Are we going to make our deadlines? And so it's been a process. I've had to, hiring the right people, hiring skilled people is really important, and then training them. I can't just assume they know how to do it. Laying out our values, laying out what the company stands for with, excellent product and customer service and, caring about our community and all of those things. It's training the people, but also something beautiful that has come out of it is that, our staff they're amazing. And sometimes we make mistakes. And as hard as that is, and we don't want to make mistakes that do happen, but trying to create a culture where if you make a mistake, let us know. Maybe we can try to, fix it, resubmit, do whatever to um, remediate that. And I think the beauty of having such a large team is everyone has a different skill set and expertise. And so a lot of times they discover solutions I would have never thought of. And they do amazing things that I would have never thought of. So
Nice.
training people, trying to find the right people, taking your time hiring, um, and then, outsourcing some of the heavy lifts, like finance or, whatever you need to do is good, but it takes time and it is hard and it's not going to be perfect, but uh, it is pretty great.
Yeah.
That is
I'm
so
just
nice.
curious, this is kind of a follow-up question. Like, how much time now are you spending actually grant writing versus running your business?
Um, I spend a lot more time now running my business because I've hired a leadership team, promoted people from within, we're training others. And so it's not just me managing a bunch of people. We've put some layers and structure in place, which is really great. So there are certain, um, if I want to be involved on a large project, I can. If I want to QA certain grants and make sure, review them, I can. So it just depends, but the majority of my week is running the business.
Okay. And did you find that are you enjoying that more than you thought you would? Or are you like, oh, I miss grant writing? Or both?
You know, I love grant writing and I love reviewing too. So I dip my toe in that all the time. I'm like, what can I help out with? What can I write? What can I do? I don't ever want to lose that, and I don't ever want to fully give that away because it's something I love
Yeah.
and I think I'm pretty good at it. And it's an opportunity to teach our team too. And I want to make sure that I'm in the trenches too and know what's going on in the sector all the time. So
Yeah.
I don't know that I'll ever give it up.
Well, it doesn't sound like you would have any reason to, because again, you're fitting you're fitting your business growth to you and the people that work for you, instead of trying to fit some cookie cutter way of, well, I'm the CEO now, I must only look at businessy things, it's what works for you.
Yeah, yeah. And you kind of have to fight some of those things sometimes because I have, obviously consultants and business people that I work with that, like I said, you can get all the advice, get everything that you can in order to learn and grow and build your business. But I still want to keep those things that bring me joy, and writing grants is one of those things.
Makes sense to me. So in your gathering advice and working with and I think before I jump into the next question, I just want to say I think that's another wonderful nugget of advice that's surfacing in our conversation together is that you have a very successful, very large grant consulting firm, and you are still pushing yourself to work with business experts and I think maybe coaches or something like that, so that you continue to learn and grow. And I just think that's a very important point, no matter if you are a solo practitioner or a CEO. I think that's really
Yep.
important to keep
I'm a
learning and
former
growing.
teacher.
Yeah,
So lifelong learning. I don't think we'll ever learn everything there is to learn. And I think being open to learning more makes us better in everything that we're doing. So I'm always looking for something to participate in, professional development, coaching, whatever that is, because I think, I want that for my staff as well.
yeah,
I want them to learn and grow and, personally and professionally. So that's something really important to me, and that trickles down to our team as well.
cool. So that actually segues beautifully into my next question. Talking about planning and when to do certain things. Back in the day, when I was coming up, there was always, hey, you need to have a 5-year strategic plan. You need a 10-year strategic plan. Now I think it's more like 2 years. And even then I'm like, yeah, maybe it's an 18-monther. Do you plan in 5 and 10 year increments, or how do you plan? And um, how is that going? What happens when things come up and you deviate for those plans? How does that whole business planning idea work for you and your firm?
Yeah, I used to say I don't have a plan, but now I know we have to plan. And we have, with over 30 employees, you have to plan.
Mhm.
We have had such rapid growth over the past 4 to 5 years that we're kind of focusing on and evaluating that growth. We've opened some new business lines and trying to figure out what that looks like now for the next 3 to 5 years. So we're going through that planning process right now. But we definitely have to have that in place. But for a while, I just didn't have a plan. And if things go according to plan, that's great. But a lot of times they don't. And so I feel myself, if I feel pulled in a certain direction and there's a need for our services in a specific area, then we, sketch it all out, see if it's going to work, and then try it. So I think it's important to be flexible and just know that you can change your plan if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
This is true. It's your business. You can change the plans.
Yep. Very true. Well, and actually, we were kind of talking about this, and I'd forgotten earlier before we started recording. I'd forgotten this was one of our questions. Any advice you wish you knew back then? Like if you could, if you could start all over again with what you know now. And in that same vein, too, I'd like to point out, because I know you've talked before about that you're an introvert. A lot of people think, oh, I'm an introvert, so I can't be at the forefront or I can't do this. But here you are running and managing a business and leading 30 people as an introvert. So especially want to give
Girl,
that.
I think it's more than 30 people. Kim, just tell us how many employees you have now.
It's 33 today.
Hmm.
Actually, it's 34. We had someone sign an offer letter this morning.
Woohoo! So yeah, any advice for everybody, but especially from an introvert's point of view would be great.
Well, I have a lot of things that I wish I would have read Brene Brown a lot sooner.
Oh, amen to that.
Yes, leaning into everything, and I've learned so much from her books. So that's one thing. Um, your network is extremely important. So get out there and build it from day one. I think that's something that I've always valued and thought was important. I'm like old school handshake, let's go meet for coffee, that kind of uh, up close and personal, in-person meetings. But your network is important, and you will see people in 10 years that you saw last year. And then you'll be like, oh, yeah, remember when we did this together? So I think everything comes full circle. Um, Always nurture your business and protect it, because there will be naysayers and there will be people that try to derail you, and you have to stay true to yourself and what you want to do. Find a mentor. I know it's easier said than done. Sometimes I joined the GPA mentor program this year, and I took on 4 mentees, which I know a little ambitious, but it's wonderful. I love it. So be a mentor, find a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
I have had mentors from day one, and it's incredible. Stay humble, because there's always something to learn, and you can always get better. You're never perfect. And I think another thing is, I think we all have imposter syndrome at some point in our career. And, if you can just push through that, everybody's got a little bit of it. I think that was a little bit frightening for me in the beginning. Um, and then communication is always another key. Being an introvert and a little bit, I don't want to say scared of conflict, but trying to avoid conflict, just getting in there and communicating with clients and people. And the more you communicate, again, Brene Brown has helped me a little bit with that, the better. And just walking through those hard conversations, things just come out on the other side, and it makes you stronger. And creates a really trusting relationship with clients and other people. Um, and trust your gut always.
I
Other
love
than
the
that,
point.
there's so many things to learn. There's so many. Like I can't even put them all together. But
Well,
and I think
that was
find
an
your own
amazing
path.
set. That was an incredible set of advice. It's like a little master class for our listeners. So we really appreciate that. And I doubly appreciate the way you pointed out that, as even if you are an introvert, as I am, as you have identified that you are, you can build your network without going to a giant round table at the Chamber of Commerce where there are 300 people and you're supposed to go meet. Not that I have memories of that or anything, but it's like, but the one-on-one, it's like, let's have coffee, or let's jump on a Zoom call, or let me get on Grant Zone, if you're a member of the Grant Professionals Association, and ask a question and see who answers and see if, if I can learn that way. There are lots of ways to do that. And you don't have to be like working every room, glad handing everybody and always telling the best jokes. I think it can be super effective to be a good listener and sort of do that one-on-one. So yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to start big, but you have to start.
Yep.
So I encouraged one of my mentees she really wanted to do a training. And I said, okay, it's your time. Put in for a session at her local GPA chapter at the conference and, see if you get accepted. And so I just had my meeting with her last week and she got accepted. So
Oh,
she's going to be
awesome.
doing her very first presentation. And I was like, see, you can start small.
Yep.
But start somewhere. And
Just start.
it's hard, but there's so many people to encourage us along the way in this profession.
That's very true. Well, if people are inspired by what you've had to say today, or maybe they need some grant writing help for their agency, or maybe they're looking to dip their toes into consulting, what's the best way for them to find out about Kim Joyce and Associates?
I would say head to our website. It's kimjoyceandassociates.com.
Mhm.
And, we've got a toll-free number there. We've got an interest form on our page about us. We have career opportunities on our website. And then we also have a bit about all of our services on our website.
So just check it out.
KimJoyceAndAssociates.com.
KimJoyceAndAssociates.com. Y'all heard it here.
That you did. Well, thanks so much for joining us today and sharing all that fabulous advice.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was taking notes. I was looking down. I'm like, I'm just going to take some notes. Thanks, Kim. That was amazing. We really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everything you guys are doing for the grant profession and fundraising as a whole.
Right
The
back.
best.
Yeah. Thanks again to today's sponsor, Kim Joyce and Associates. If you want to learn more about career opportunities and client relations with this growing business, visit kimjoyceandassociates.com. That's KIMJOYCE and associates.com.
So if you're looking to grow your consulting practice, then we hope you got some of the tips, pointers, and inspiration you need to make it happen. If you want to stay small, stay where you are, and love life, then that's good too, because you need to do what works for you.
Very true. We hope you will join us again in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about traveling, specifically when grant funds are involved.
Could get paperworky.
Good. We'll see you then.
Bye.